Representative George Santos has been expelled from Congress. It's shocking because George Santos had one heck of a resume. He's the grandson of Holocaust survivors, the former star of the Baruch College volleyball team, a financial whiz kid who worked on Wall Street, an animal lover with experience in the nonprofit sector, a producer on the Broadway smash hit Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, and an actor who appeared on Hannah Montana. His life story has been touched by some of the biggest events of this era. He lost 4 employees in the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando. His 5-year-old niece was kidnapped by Chinese communists at a Newark playground. His mother was the first female executive at a major financial institution, but like others who worked in finance in Manhattan, she was tragically murdered on 9/11. Santos has gone through more in his scant 25 years on this planet than many have experienced in an entire lifetime. As some have described him, he's Forrest Gump, but evil. Oh wait, absolutely none of the things that I've just said are true in any way. Santos' grandparents were from Brazil. His mother was a cook living in Brazil on September 11th, and thankfully she lived for 15 more years. He didn't attend Baruch College, or any college it seems. He wasn't a Broadway producer. His financial expertise consists mainly of credit card theft. None of his employees were murdered. His niece was never kidnapped. He's Catholic, not Jewish. He stole puppies from the Amish, and I could go on. However, George DeVolder Santos finally has an accomplishment he can hang his sweater vest on. On December 1st, 2023, he became just the 6th lawmaker in US history and the first Republican to be expelled from the House. And you might be laughing now, but unlike most of the members who voted to expel him, Santos really will go down in American history. So today, let's talk about how to get legally expelled from the House of Representatives. Now, all those lies made Santos a fabulist, but not necessarily a criminal. As we've talked about many times on this channel, politicians can lie to American citizens, often without repercussion. However, on May 10th, Santos was indicted on 13 criminal counts of wire fraud, unlawful monetary transactions over $10,000, theft of public money, and false statements. As Scowl Owl Spencer explained at the time,
it contains 13 criminal counts, including wire fraud, unlawful monetary transactions over $10,000, theft of public money, and false statements.
And in October, prosecutors hit Santos with 10 more counts of conspiracy to commit offenses against the US, including wire fraud, making false statements to the Federal Election Commission, falsifying records, aggravated identity theft, and access device fraud. The criminal charges finally prompted the House Ethics Committee to start an investigation, and the committee released a 56-page report on November 16th. It says Santos stole money from his campaign, reported fictitious loans, deceived donors, and engaged in fraudulent business dealings. The report says Santos used that money to cover his personal expenses. Now, Santos has a penchant for wearing sweaters under his blazers, but he apparently used campaign funds at luxury clothing retailers like Hermes, although I've yet to see him wear anything that cost over $4,000, as detailed in the report. Santos visited a plastic surgeon and spent almost $3,000 on Botox, which may or may not have worked. He used campaign funds for other medical spa visits, including a $1,500 purchase on the campaign debit card at Mirza Aesthetics, and a $1,400 charge at Virtual Skin Spa. He spent $3,300 in campaign money at an Airbnb in the Hamptons, and $2,200 in Atlantic City. He spent money on OnlyFans despite claiming that he had no idea what that site was.
Just discovered what OnlyFans was about 3 weeks ago when it was brought up in a discussion in my office.
What do you think?
And I was oblivious to the whole concept.
Now, we don't know for sure what he purchased on OnlyFans, but hopefully soon we'll find out the naked truth, expose every detail, and lay bare the stark reality. The Ethics Committee also accused Santos of stealing campaign donors' identities and racking up thousands of dollars in unauthorized charges on their credit cards to benefit his campaign and himself personally. This misconduct includes defrauding other members of Congress and their families. Ohio Republican Max Miller said Santos, quote, had charged my personal credit card and the personal card of my mother for contribution amounts that exceeded FEC limits. Neither my mother nor I approved these charges or were aware of them. The charges resulted in Miller spending, quote, tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees to resolve the situation. Miller claims he had seen a list of 400 people, including other Republican House members, who Santos also defrauded in this way. The day before the vote, Miller and Santos exchanged barbs about this, with Miller saying,
"You, sir, are a crook. I know I should direct my comments to the chair."
Santos fired back by referencing accusations that Miller assaulted his girlfriend.
My colleague wants to come up here, call me a crook. Same colleague who's accused of being a woman beater.
Just a real classy dude there. Now, obviously Santos is going to need a good lawyer for the DOJ's prosecution, but if you want a great lawyer, my firm, the Eagle team, can help. If you've been in a car crash, suffered a data breach, or have a workers' comp issue, we can represent you or help find you the right attorney. It's important to talk to a lawyer right away so you can get the best representation and find out what your options are. So just click on the link in the description for a free consultation with my team right away. Because you don't just need a legal team, you need the Eagle team. The link is down below. Now, the Constitution grants each House of Congress the power to, quote, punish its members for disorderly behavior and, with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member. Expulsion is the process of ejecting a member of Congress after that person has been elected and seated. The ethics committees have jurisdiction to investigate the conduct of members that might reflect poorly on the body of Congress in which they serve. During the Constitutional Convention, the Founding Fathers never discussed the type of misconduct that would warrant expulsion. They were more concerned with providing a restraint on that power, hence the 2/3 majority requirement. There wasn't much debate about the meaning of the expulsion clause, leaving future Americans with the responsibility of figuring out how it applies. And while the Founding Fathers probably never contemplated a member of Congress using campaign funds to buy an OnlyFans subscription, that probably qualifies as something that can lead to expulsion. Now, the Supreme Court and lower federal courts have not decided a case about the expulsion of a member of Congress because members who weren't expelled haven't challenged their expulsions in court, though some members like James Traficant and Charlie Rangel sought legislative review of disciplinary proceedings that were invoked pursuant to the expulsion clause. But courts demurred because of the political question doctrine. Now, we've talked about the political question doctrine in the past, most recently in the video about whether Trump is disqualified from the presidency. Political questions are controversies that are so politically charged that the courts shouldn't get involved, preferring to leave it up to the legislature, which would almost certainly apply in the case of expulsion. Then there's also the separation of powers issue. The three branches of government would rather police themselves than have the other branches meddle in disciplinary matters. So Congress says it has the sole right to discipline its members, while the Supreme Court insists that Congress has no right to impose an ethics code on the justices. The Supreme Court has discussed the expulsion power in dicta from time to time. For example, in 1972, former Senator Daniel Brewster challenged his bribery indictment on the basis that his conduct was protected by the speech and debate clause. The court held that the legislative privilege does not encompass all legislative acts, and Brewster could be prosecuted. The court observed that when it comes to discipline and expulsion, quote, an accused member is judged by no specifically articulated standards and is at the mercy of an almost unbridled discretion of the charging body that functions at once as accuser, prosecutor, judge, and jury, from whose decision there is no established right to review. Now, some lawyers argue it's unconstitutional to expel someone for conduct that happened before they were elected, particularly if the member's conduct was known by the voters when they elected that person. They say that conflicts with Article 1's mandate that the House, quote, shall be composed of members chosen by the people. Now, a local newspaper, the North Shore Leader, uncovered many of Santos's lies before he was elected to the House of Representatives, but I don't think you can compare Santos with congressmen whose constituents knew they were big-time crooks or were already in prison. For example, Ohio Democrat James Traficant was convicted of taking many different bribes, and Traficant managed to get 20% of the vote while serving a federal prison term. Republican Clay Higgins said that Santos was elected by the people and their decision should be sacrosanct, but New York Republican Nick LaLolta was having none of this.
He didn't work where he said he did. He didn't go to school where he said he did. He's far from rich. He isn't Jewish, and his mother was not in the South Tower during 9/11. So the argument that New Yorkers voted George Santos in and that we should wait until November of 2024 for voters to decide his fate is inherently flawed, since voters weren't given a chance in the first chance to determine who they were actually voting for.
Now, some members who voted not to expel Santos say they did it because he didn't get the due process that he would get in a court of law.
What I'm finding fault with is that our members have forgotten that everybody is afforded due process under law, not due process under the Ethics Committee.
But the Constitution is clear that Congress doesn't have to wait until someone is criminally convicted in cases of expulsion or impeachment. And of course, the Constitution doesn't say that the phrase high crimes and misdemeanors or disorderly behavior actually mean criminal convictions. The only other possible theoretical limitation on the expulsion power is if it's used to trample on a member's individual rights. So if Congress expelled someone because of that person's race or religion, they might have a decent legal argument, but that certainly doesn't apply here. Now, Congress does not use its expulsion power very often. Before Santos, only 15 members and 5 members of the House had ever been expelled from office. The earliest expulsion case was in 1797, when Senator William Blount, quote, concocted a scheme for Indians and frontiersmen to attack Spanish Florida and Louisiana in order to transfer those territories to Great Britain. Blount wrote all this down in a letter, which President Adams used to get him expelled. As for the other expulsions, 17 were related to the Civil War, and in 1980, Pennsylvania Democrat Michael Myers, no relation, was expelled for taking a bribe. James Traficant, who I mentioned before, was expelled in 2002, and that brings us up to today. The Santos resolution passed 311 to 114, despite Republican House leadership's attempts to save Santos. That includes Speaker Mike Johnson, who voted against the resolution. Johnson is facing questions about his own finances. And since his election to the House in 2016, none of Johnson's financial disclosures have included a bank account. And as for the other corruption train wreck in Congress, Senator Bob Menendez, fellow Democrat John Fetterman says it's time for the senator from Egypt to go.
And if you are going to expel Santos, how can you allow to somebody like Menendez to remain in the Senate?
And things came full circle when Fetterman hired Santos to make a sarcastic cameo, urging Menendez to stay strong and stay in Congress.
Hey, Bobby, look, I don't think I need to tell you, but these people that want to make you get in trouble and want to kick you out and make you run away, you make them put up or shut up. You stand your ground, sir, and don't get bogged down by all the haters out there. Stay strong. Merry Christmas.
Now there will be a special election to fill Santos' seat, and Santos' criminal trial is scheduled for September 2024. Now, the expulsion of George Santos has been covered extensively by more than 300 news outlets. 36% of the reporting is coming from the left, and 20% is coming from the right. And if you compare the headlines, you'll start to see some interesting framing. On the left, you have outlets saying that he was finally expelled and third time's the charm, with reference to Santos' expulsion, while on the right, news outlets usually stick to just expelled. These word changes are subtle, but they play a big role in how readers perceive the story. The first set of words might imply that we knew Santos was a fraud all along and that it was a long time coming, while the second set of words provides an understated account that downplays some of his malfeasance. Now, all this is possible thanks to today's sponsor, Ground News, a website and app developed by a former NASA engineer on a mission to give readers an easy, data-driven, objective way to read the news. Every story comes with a quick visual breakdown of the political bias, factuality, and ownership of the source's reporting, all backed by ratings from 3 independent news monitoring organizations. I especially like the new Ground News comparison feature, which highlights specific differences between left and right reporting. For the story on Santos' expulsion, you can see that left-leaning outlets tended to focus on his use of campaign funds for personal expenses, while the right presents factual information about the expulsion without prioritizing loaded or emphatic language. Ground News also has a blind spot feed, which highlights stories that are disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. These tools are so important so we don't live in an echo chamber or get misled by subtle and sometimes not so subtle language in the news. So give Ground News a try by clicking on the link that's on screen right now or down in the description. And just for the holidays through December 28th, you can get their biggest sale of the year. Right now, you can get a 40% discount on Ground News' Vantage subscription. Their Vantage subscription includes unlimited access to all Ground News features, and with the sale, subscription is only $5 a month. Or you can start with their Pro plan, which is less than $1. And it's the biggest deal of the year. So go to ground.news/LegalEagle or click on the link below, and you'll get a 40% discount on unlimited access to their app, website, and newsletters, all for just $5 a month. After that, click on this link over here for more Legal Eagle, or I'll see you in court.